Hello again, and welcome to another installment of Compel CEO's podcast, Compelling Conversations. My name is Steve Ramerini. I am the founder and Chief Visionary Officer of Compel. And today we have with us a fantastic guest all the way from London by way of Williamsburg, Brooklyn, Janice B. Gordon. Janice is the customer growth expert. She's also the founder of Scale Your Sales podcast and framework, which has helped generate revenue for revenue-focused organizations and framework, which helps revenue-focused organizations grow through customer excellence in sales. She's also recognized by LinkedIn Sales as one of 15 innovating sales influencers to follow. Janice is in the top 50 global thought leaders and influencers on customer service and customer experience, and 150 women B2B thought leaders to follow. Additionally, Janice is an international speaker, consultant, educator, facilitator, and author of the book Business Evolution, Creating Growth in a Rapidly Changing World, and is the co-author of Heels to Deals, How Women Are Dominating Business-to-Business Sales. Welcome.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here, Steve.
So, first off, thank you for being here as our guest, and also thank you for a fantastic session today, filled with tremendous amount of intelligence and tools that our Compel members can use to really excel their sales and better target their sales. To start off with, I know you mentioned today that words are key to sales, and you gave us a tool. And the tool is this: I help to so that. Could you give us some background on that, Janice?
Yes, of course. Often when we introduce ourselves or when we talk from our own perspective. So we think we're interesting, don't we? But from a customer's perspective, we're not very interesting at all. They're the ones that's interesting. So I wanted to switch it up a little. When we're introducing ourselves, we want to make it relevant to our customers, relevant to other people. So I help a unique group of people. So it makes it really clear who I'm talking to. You're either in that group or you're not in that group. I help a unique group of people, say, I don't know, think of a group of customers.
Business owners.
Right. I help business owners in a certain district to. So what do I help them to do? What's unique and different about what I do? That's what you need to talk about. So I help business owners to increase their revenue by 10% within a year so that they can have more time with their families, so that they can have or save for retirement, so that. Often we forget the so that when we're introducing what we do, who we do it for, and why we do it. The so that is really important. What is the result? What is the outcome for our customer? Because that's the thing that they're interested in. They're not interested in you. They're not interested really in what you do, the products or service you sell. They want to know the result of what you do.
And you backed that up today with the statistic of, I think it was 95% of buyers say that they would rather not interact with salespeople. And this is since the pandemic.
Absolutely. Yes. Gartner did some research prior to the pandemic, and it was 85% of business to business buyers did not want to interact with salespeople. Over the years, they've spent so much time not getting value out of that relationship. And post-pandemic, it was Outreach that commissioned research from Foresters, and it's now increased to 95%. So the majority of people within this group of buyers do not want to interact with sellers. Much of the journey is carried out, well, it certainly starts online, but much of the journey will continue online. So what it means, we need to add way more value to the customer's experience if we want to get in front of them. And we need to continue to think about what value are we adding, what's relevant to them, what's interesting to them, what are their priorities, how can I serve them better.
That's all great information. And you shared with us, in addition to the tools, in addition to the framework and the roadmap, you shared with us several statistics which were mind-boggling, but then there was one in particular that was kind of contrary to what I think most people believe about salespeople. And it was this, that sales professionals, the more successful ones, tend to be introverts rather than extroverts. And the lowest performing sales professionals, most of them tend to be extroverts. What's behind that?
Yes, that is counterintuitive, isn't it? Most of us think that salespeople are gregarious, they're extrovert, they're loud, they're people that are going forward, they're talkative. That's what we think salespeople should be. So this comes from research from OMG. They have over 25 years of research of salespeople of all different positions, from senior leaders, managers, and sales professionals, even into sales support. So over 2.3 million assessments have been done. So we know what great looks like. And it was quite curious to discover that the top 5% of the best salespeople in the world, 62% of them are introverts. And then the bottom 10% of salespeople in the world, 84% of them are extroverts. And that is really quite staggering. So it means that we're recruiting from the wrong source.
And I think what it also means is that people who hire sales professionals or salespeople need to think long and hard about the profile that they're looking for when they're hiring. I'll share this with you. I don't know if it came out, but one of the members shared with the group, he's been looking for salespeople. He's tried everything, and it's never worked. And then, on a recommendation from me, because my daughter does recruiting, I said she recruits technical people from all around the world, primarily using LinkedIn. And he developed a profile and he put it out on LinkedIn. And he's got 4 candidates, he said, that are the best candidates he's now ever seen for a sales position.
Yeah, that was an excellent example, wasn't it, that came out of the group. Rather than advertising and expecting them to come to you and find you, what he did, he was more proactive, wasn't he? He was going out and looking for the types of companies and the types of people he was interested in, and he was going out and appealing to them, saying, we've got a position you might be interested in. They may already be in a role, but he was still being proactive and going out, and it worked really well.
And then I guess that's where the assessments come in. After you've found your targets, you need to refine it through these assessments. So could you speak a little bit more about those 2.3 million data bits that are in the assessment?
Yeah, it's a process that we go through. Because we know what great looks like, then what we want to do is match what you're looking for, what your needs are, with what we know great is. Not good, but great salespeople, great leaders, great managers for your unique market of customers. So all we're doing, it's like a marriage. We're creating a marriage. So we already have some of the data. So we need data from whether it's your existing sales team, because it's not just recruitment. So you might have an existing sales team. We'll get them to fill out a question, an assessment. And part of that process is marriage, is matching up what we know great is to what you already have on your team. And in terms of recruitment, there is a statistic that 46% of sales hires fail within the first 18 months. And even in the group today, there were people that raised their hand that said, yes, they've made mistakes in hiring. And the cost of those mistakes can be anything from $100,000 up to millions, because it's not just the cost. They can lose you customers, the morale in the team, the time that you spent to ramp them up, and the training costs. All of that is a great strain on the business. So this process of going through an assessment, which is a matching of skills, and sales-specific skills, that is, not behavioral skills, not personality, psychometric, not those. They are not sales-specific. This is sales-specific matching process.
That was a very valid point. And as I thought about it in the beginning, I said, wow, that's great to know. And then I started to think about my clients and their experiences. And that number may be low. And I'll tell you why. People tend to, well, just a little while longer. I'll keep them a little. Just now I'm seeing mostly in the younger business owners where they cut the cord faster.
Yeah.
But in many instances, I think that if it was like you got to make a decision within 18 months, I think that 46% would be more like 66%. So
I would agree with you. I think you're right. Once you've made an investment in somebody, it's really hard to say I got it wrong. And there's no data around you to support that, because you haven't been through this process. So you don't know if it's right or wrong. You think, well, maybe next month, or maybe let me just help them a little bit more. Let me give them a bit longer to bed in. The other thing to look at, when you're recruiting somebody, what is the method you're using? And in the session today, we looked at what is the effectiveness of the tools we use. CVs, 18%. 18% effectiveness. Interviews, 20%. And the best one at 23% were referrals. So the methods we're using are not good enough to give us certainty in recruitment. So we need to stop using those as our methods of recruitment.
through the years, and this is what's been intriguing to me, we've heard from various speakers that have said, well, the reason why the salesperson you hired failed is because they were probably out of work. So you got someone else's reject. Another reason was you bring them in and you don't give them any training. You just say, here's the collateral material, here's a sales list, go get them, without any, effort being put in to, these are the types of customers we're looking for. These are our best customers. This is what they look like. This is what we're targeting. And then sales goals sometimes have been attributed to the reason why people fail. And you had an interesting statistic that only about 50% of salespeople actually reach their sales quotas. So is that because there was bad interviewing and bad process up front? Was it, bad products? We made a bad hiring decision. We don't have the right products. We don't have the right buyer persona. I imagine it's a combination of all those.
Yes, you're absolutely right. It is a combination of all of those. But that statistic that you've quoted, that's been the case for the last 30 years. 30 years of making bad hires, not supporting. It's an awful long time. It just means that the system is pretty broke and we need to start doing things differently. One thing that we did say is that sales are the engine of all growth businesses. They're absolutely essential. So why are we using processes that are not working for us? We need to stop doing that and start to flip the script and do it in a different way, because obviously everyone I meet in the field will raise their hand and says, yes, I've made bad sales hires. And what you say about them not getting supported when they're in the role, all of these things are true. But if you put the right person in the right position that has the right sales-specific core competencies, so they're the right match for what great is, even when they're not supported, they're going to do well. They're going to do well. They're going to survive. They'll find a way around it, under it, over it. They'll find a way. Now, when we talk about sales competencies, one of the key competencies is drive or grit, the ability to bounce back. We call it the will to sell. Now, this is something that you cannot train in. So you need to bring it in, you need to buy it in, you need to know it exists. CVs don't tell you that. Interview process don't tell. A recommendation, none of those things. This is why you need a process that's able to measure the intrinsic nature of that person that you're bringing in.
That's a great point. And I guess that ties into the introvert and extrovert personalities. I want to throw us into a different direction for just a quick second here, because I've seen this time and time again, and that is the concept of sales managers or sales management. I know from my client base that the entrepreneurs, the ones that started their business, not the family businesses that have been handed down, but the entrepreneurial businesses, they started their business because they were either good at selling something or they were good at making and doing something. Clearly, there's few, I don't know, I'd put 5%, are good at both. But the ones that are good at selling something, they need something to sell. And I think their challenge is that they're not good sales managers and they can't clone themselves. And then you have those who maybe are more from an engineering background or a professional background, and they're great at what they do, or they're great at what they can make, and they're lacking sales. So they make bad hires, they make bad appointments of sales managers, and the typical sin throughout the ages has been, let's take our best salesperson and elevate them to sales manager. So how do we break that?
I think you're right. It is the worst sin. It's understanding that a great salesperson has a completely different skill set and competence to a manager. And you really need to understand what they are, and you need to be able to measure for them. One size does not fit all. You assume that a salesperson, one is extroverted. We assume that a salesperson is going to have great systems in place. So we assume they're going to be a great communicator. All of these assumptions that we're making are terrible assumptions. So we think when they get into management, they'll be able to communicate their process and they'll be able to support other people. Well, if you think of your top salespeople, they're often lone riders. They know what they're doing. They don't really want the managers involved, and they just want to get on with it and keep their own hours. And they think, well, if just as long as I get the results, I'm going to do things the way I want to do it, and ignore the system, the rest of the operation. And they're often allowed to get away with that because they are bringing in the results. Now, that kind of mindset isn't a team player. So then putting them in a management role, and the thing is they will accept it because it's a promotion and it's more money. But they're not a team player, and they never will be a team player. Some of them are able to adapt their skill set, but it's very, very few. I think I remember looking at some figures, and it's really only about 25% of your top salespeople that will make good managers over a period of time. So that means 75% of them in role will never really be great managers. They'll never be able to adapt. And so that means the impact on the team. So they may have a team of 10 or hundreds of people below them. And the impact on the team now, we're beginning to get to another reason why people are only reaching 50% of the quota, because the management structure and because the leadership is really poor. Well, the people below them are not going to be able to perform under that.
As you were talking, I was thinking back to a time when I was employed by a privately held, rapidly growing technology company. And we had, I remember, several sales managers. Some were sales managers because they were great at selling, but they had a territory. They might have been in Michigan, they might have been in Boston, but they were really excellent at selling. And we just empowered them by giving them staff to support that. And then we had the locals. And of the locals, there were 3 that were primarily our sales managers. One was truly a sales manager. That was the role he had done for the automotive industry, and now he was in the technology industry. One was sort of like a crossover where he was a good salesperson, but he learned to be a good sales manager. And one was just the best salesperson you could ever imagine. And honestly, this happened before I got there, so don't blame me. We did it so we didn't have to pay her as much of a commission. Is what it was.
Right.
But, it was interesting because that was a fledgling company, started in a basement in a garage, and it was like the number 1 seller of PCs in the country. And so, what did they know? What did we know? We didn't know much, but we got it right somehow,
Yeah.
which is amazing,
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you about the book you co-authored. And tell me, why is it, the title of it, Heels to Deals, great title, How Women Are Dominating B2B Sales or Business to Business Sales. How does that happen?
We talked about extroverts and introverts, and the one reason why introverts are really good at sales is because they're very good listeners. They're very good observers of people. And one of the statistics that I talked about through this research is that if you're better at listening over talking, that stat alone is 375% greater difference in sales success to other insights or sales specific insights. So it's really an important stat. So that's why introverts are really good at sales. So the question about why women are good at sales, there is another stat around collaboration. It used to be in sales where it was all of the salespeople had all of the information, so buyers needed to come to them in order to progress to the purchase. Well, now most of the information is already out there. The buyers can do their own research. So they're not coming to you for information. Why are they coming to you? They're coming to you, and it's more of a collaboration. You're sitting there around the table rather than across the table as equals. And so what they want is support, what they want is collaboration, what they want is trusted relationships. So the skill set has very much changed. Women are really good listeners. They're really good collaborators, and they sit there from an equal base. How can I serve you better? How can I help you to progress? Rather than a power base relationship. And that's what's very much needed today. That's how buyers like to buy. They want trusted relationships. They want collaboration. They want someone that's going to help them, like a Sherpa, like a guide through the process. Many of our buyers, we forget, they've probably never been through that buying process before. There's a lot of buyers in the B2B world where they may actually do that purchase once every 4 years, but they might change their role every 3. So it may be the first time. Not only that, it's more complicated. A good 70% of the buying B2B buying process is actually deal management. If you've got 10 people, maybe 20 people in your customer's company that will have a say in the purchase of that product, each of them have different roles. You've got to help them to manage that process. And that's why collaboration is a really good skill to have. Problem solving, collaboration. So women are very good at sales.
We had a speaker many years ago, and I used this line, but I'm going to change it from now on. And what he said was the best salesperson to hire is a female retired Marine, because females are more flexible, and as you just mentioned, they're better listeners. And also, Marines do not stop until they've achieved their goal. And so every time one of my members or clients says to me, got to hire a salesperson, I hit them with, you got to find yourself a female retired Marine. But I'm going to now switch it up a little bit and use those examples that you just gave as to why females are really dominating the B2B space. And I hope all of you listening who are in the B2B space took notes. If not, just listen to the podcast again. Okay. So I also want to touch a little bit on your book that you wrote, Business Evolution, because what struck me is that this is a rapidly changing world. It changed from March 17th to March 18th, 2020, like that. It changed again during the rest of 2020. It changed again in 2021 as people started to come back. It seems to be changing every year, every month. And it doesn't seem like it's ever going to end. Is there anything that we can do, or people who are listening, whatever space they're in, B2B, B2C, what can they do to deal with this constant level of change?
Yes, and I talk about this in the book. Everything is racing ahead and we feel we're out of touch, and we're trying to keep up with this ever moving world, and our buyers' behaviors are constantly evolving and changing. I mean, sales has been lagging their buyers about 2 years, and that's still really the case. So we're constantly trying to keep up. So what I say is that we need to just stop and pause. And rather than race to keep up, I mean, you'll never keep up. You will never, ever keep up, right? Let's accept the situation that we're in, but let's dominate the space that we're in and really understand who are our key customers. Because it's only a small group of people that we really need to please. It's not the whole world. We don't need to race the world. We just need to understand our own parameters. Who are your key customers? Who are the people that absolutely love what you do? Who are the people that need what you have to offer? And understand that group of people really well. So you're asking them the questions, you're following everything that they're doing. If you don't have those parameters, then you're going to go crazy trying to keep up with everything. It's like being in what we call in a sweetie shop in England. You're going to the red one, the orange one, and constantly, and you're just going round and round in circles, and you're not going anywhere at all. So set your parameters, really understand who are your key group of customers, and stay as close to them as possible. Your customers, I worked in customer experience for many years and many years ago, but the one thing that did was change my perspective on sales. It helped me to understand that buyers are in control as they are now, but also buyers are your best innovators and creators. They're closer to the products and service. They know what they want and they know what they need in the iterations. The closer you can stay to your customers and the better the relationship you have with your customers, they will help you to solve the problem because they know what the problem is. They're living with it every day. So you're not having to race with the world. You're just having to keep up with your unique group of customers. So stay very close to them, understand them, and then you'll do really well.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Janice. In closing, if our listeners could only do one thing to improve sales, what's that one thing?
Oh, gosh, this is a hard one thing, right? To improve the sales, retention. A good 20% of your key customers are going to create a good 80% of your sales revenue. Pareto's principle. But that group of customers are also going to create your future revenue as well. So you really need to understand your customers so well and delight your customers, because not only do they give you the revenue now, but they'll give you the future revenue as well. So retention is what you need to be focusing on.
Terrific. Janice B. Gordon, the customer growth expert. Thank you so much for being with us. I can't wait for the rest of the week and your additional presentations to our group. And please, again, listen over to this podcast. It's full of fantastic tools and information to help you grow your sales. And until next time, this is Steve Ramerini for Compelling Conversations, signing off.